Hey guys, today I want to talk about hard choices. Hard choices in the Philippines are when somebody passes away back home and you have to make a choice of whether you're going to go back home and go to a funeral or meet somebody that's sick back home and, go back and take care of them, a family member, your mom, your dad, a sister, a brother, possibly even a cousin or a close friend or whatever that back home has gotten sick. And a lot of times when we come over to the Philippines, we have to make hard decisions because sometimes for us to go back, it's very costly and it can really dig into our emergency funds. And a lot of the guys over here, the emergency funds, just that, it's for us. And you have to make a hard decision of like, geez, do I want to go back and really spend, $1,500 for a round trip plane ticket to go back and come back, possibly spend some money on hotels or a rental or whatever I have to do, or stay at a family's house or whatever, and be a burden upon them. And a lot of times, most expats that are not wealthy just make the choice of, hey, I'm not going back. And it usually causes a lot of family strife. A lot of people in your family will get pissed off at you for not going back or whatever, not understanding the issues of why you didn't come back during that time, especially when you don't go back for like a parent or a brother or a sister or what have you. It can be very difficult on the family members back home because they're wondering, why isn't he here? Why didn't he come? And it's a difficult thing for all of us as expats to make that decision. And it's one of the things that when you make a decision to come to the Philippines, that you have to you have to think about these things before you come here, because you might not be there when your mom gets sick, your brother gets sick, your sister gets sick, and you might not be able to be there for somebody that you really care for. And sometimes it pisses off even other family members, and it can be very difficult later on when you do try to go home to visit people or whatever. They're gonna look at you in a different light because you didn't come home for your mom's funeral or your dad's funeral or your sister's or brother's or cousin's funeral or whatever, or your best friend's funeral. It's very difficult on everyone involved, both you and the family members back home. And sometimes it's a choice we make when we come here that we kind of have to let that settle. You know what I mean? We have to live with that aspect of expat life. And a lot of people don't understand that. And that's why when you come over here, a lot of people just kind of leave everything back there. And they've already made the decision that this is their new life. They've made a choice to leave all that behind and stay in touch with their family as much as they can. And wherever the chips fall, they fall. And that's a tough decision. It's a tough call for people to do that. And I've had 2 deaths in my family that I can recall right now. I'm sure there might have been 1 or 2 others too. Actually, I think there was. And both of them were in my immediate family, and I was not able to go back. And, for me to make that decision was probably one of the, tougher things in my life to do. And one of the people in my family I was fairly close with. The other one I was not very close with. And not to say I didn't love them, I did. It's just that sometimes, as time goes on, you're not that close with these people, whatever. The majority of the people in my family, I'm still pretty close with them, I'm in contact with. And since I've come over here, I've noticed some people don't contact me as much as I'd like them to contact me, and other ones, I have to constantly contact them because they don't contact me or whatever, and I'm okay with it to a certain extent, but it kind of makes you feel bad when you're over here because it's like, well, gee, I haven't heard from this person in 2 weeks or this person in a month or whatever. And sometimes it's because of age. I can understand that. Age sometimes can cause problems with people calling you or what have you. And I have that also. I have a godfather back home, and he's 100 years old. He's 100 years old in December. He's 99, and he's heading towards that 100-year mark. You might as well say he's 100 years old. He's in his 100th year. And, I can't contact him anymore because he's not able to pick up the phone. He doesn't hear it. I don't think his hearing aid's turned on half the time or whatever, and there's other health issues going on. And I wish I could talk to him. I wish I could say, hey, how you doing? and my godfather, I love my godfather to death. I love him like a second father, because my father passed away a long time ago. And, he was my father's best friend. And he was a World War II veteran in Guam. And he's still alive today, which is amazing. Here we are in 2023, and that was in the 1940s. And he fixed planes back then on Guam. And he was telling me a story about when he got shot at from some Japanese soldier leftover, even after the war, and the guy was shooting at him. And I think it might have been that guy. They found a cave of this guy living out there in Guam. The guy lived there till like the 1970s or something like that, I think it was. And he thinks it might have been that guy, because there was leftovers there for quite a while. They had to kind of, root them out and get them out. And some of them they did, some of them they didn't. But I mean, to last all the way up until the 1970s, and they had a Filipino soldier also here in the Philippines, same thing, 1970s, he handed himself over. And that's amazing when you think about that this guy, telling a story to me that after the war, because he was there for a little while after the war, that they were still shooting at American soldiers there, even after, the war had ended. And he's still alive today and able to tell that story. And I remember him telling me that story about 2 or 3 years ago. And I love hearing stories like that, because, as we hear as those people pass away, they take those stories with them. And I want to share that with you guys, because I think it's kind of an interesting story. And my father had many stories too. He was talking to me about the USS Ward. These people, as they pass away, they take there's so much history with them. And if they don't share that story, you don't have that story. And my father was on a ship, the USS Ward. It was sunk off of Ormoc. And when he was taken off it, it was the guy that took him off it was the captain of the ship before in Pearl Harbor, I guess. It was quite an interesting story. So the guy was actually the prior captain. He had to actually put a couple of shells into the ship to sink it, I guess, from what my father told me, because of the fact that they didn't want it to get into Japanese hands. And there's another great story. You don't hear these stories. So this guy actually had to sink his former ship, to keep it out of the Japanese hands. And he was moved up. He was the guy that shot the first shot during World War II, I guess, when he fired on a submarine in Pearl Harbor. And it was actually in one of the movies. So it's quite an interesting story, the USS Ward. And you can look that story up. It's an interesting story. But my father told me the story, and I hope I got all the facts straight. I know it went something like that, but it was a really cool story. And, these people take those stories with them. And all our World War II veterans are almost gone now. And I look back at all my family members that were World War II and Korean War veterans that passed away, and think about the stories that they told me about getting captured and things like that. And and then being on ships that sunk and being shot at by Japanese soldiers on Guam and all this here. It really is scary, but most of those people are gone now. And now most of the people that are passing away in my family now are people my age or older. They're cousins and brothers. And, most of us expats over here, we've already lost most of our parents, and some of us haven't. We're lucky enough that we still have our parents, and that's a blessing today. But when you leave the States, it's usually your last goodbye to a lot of people back there. And I remember talking to people on the phone and telling them my last goodbye and that I want to see them. And some of them I didn't get to see, and some of them I did. And even though I left, some of those people I'm still in touch with today, talking to them. And I'm lucky that I can talk to them live and see them, because of technology today. And that's a blessing, because it's just like sitting there talking to them, so we can see them, look them in the eye and talk to them and actually have a good conversation with them. But when you leave, guys, it's probably, for many of you, whether it's going to be your last goodbye or not, for the most part. Make sure that you let them know how much you care about them when you leave the United States, and show them that love before you leave, because you may not see them again. Something can happen, a tragic accident, a sickness, an illness. Make sure you let them know that you love them, and stay in touch with them. Don't let that die because they don't contact you. People get busy, and you know how people are busy in the United States. We're not busy. So when somebody doesn't call us for 2 weeks or a week or a month or something like that, we're like, oh man, they're not going to talk to me, forget them. No, contact them, call them, say, you know, hey, I just wanted to call to say I love you. That's an important thing to say sometimes. I love you. It's something that we don't say in the world enough. You know, tell your family that. Say I love you. God bless, guys. Take care. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Remember, I love you guys too. God bless, guys.